Hey there, it's Tracy Tully and you're listening to Tracy Tully Talks at bbsradio.com, the place to be right now. Streaming live with another 60 minutes of thought-provoking topics, sharing with you conversations that are relevant today, tomorrow and in the future. Join me each week on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Australian time, AEST, 5 p.m. Wednesday PT. Hello, Los Angeles. If you missed the live show, jump onto your favourite podcasting platform and you'll find me on Tracy Tully Talks. We do have some adult language, so if you have some little ones around, pop on your earphones. Hello and welcome to Tracy Tully Talks. Today I have Toni with me, and Toni is from sunny Queensland as well. But before we start, my heart goes out to everyone in California, and we wish you all the very, very best with the fires that are happening there. We know exactly what you're going through. Australia, unfortunately, had to experience the same thing at Christmas time, and it's quite devastating. So our hearts go to you. All the best. Toni, how are you? Lovely to hear from you today.
I'm great and wonderful to be here with you, Tracy, on Tracy Tully Talks, live on BBS Radio.
All right. Now, our theme today is confidence, and self-confidence is what we're going to talk about today. And I've put a little ad out there for people. So if you are listening, you might like to pop on and or leave some messages in the email on bbsradio.com/Tracy Tully Talks. But right now we're going to talk to Toni. Toni is an author and she's also a radio broadcaster. And Toni's going to tell us all about her book. Over to you, Toni.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tracy. So my book, and I hope you can see this, is Resilience, Memoir of a Broken Little Girl Discovering a Woman of Strength and Beauty. And so my confidence and my self-confidence was hard won. You might know that I was born with a facial congenital defect, and my confidence going into adulthood was severely marred by the fact that I had left-sided facial palsy. And it wasn't until my 40s that the effects of that left-sided facial palsy started to diminish, and it was only in my 40s that I started to gain any sort of self-confidence in any area of my life, because I fundamentally thought that I was flawed. So when talking about confidence and self-confidence, my confidence is a hard one. I had to do lots of work on myself to get to being the confident person that I am today.
And I can appreciate how difficult that would be, Toni. Being a principal 38 years, I saw a lot of bullying, as you can imagine, and I experienced a lot of bullying, as you can imagine,
yourself.
in a very high placed job as a principal. But I can imagine the extra difficulties with having something like that, which is very visual, and people are very judgy, aren't they?
And the other thing is, I'm not sure if people realize that smiling is a fundamental part of human connection. So when you can't smile properly, that distorts your communication with the world. And that's very much how I felt. And I would all the time, people would say that I had resting bitch face, or that I wasn't easy to talk to, that I was standoffish. None of that was true. It was just that I was so conscious of not smiling that I often didn't smile. And again, it wasn't until my 50s I smile freely, and I really don't care what anyone thinks now. And again, that confidence is hard won for me. And it took a long time, took me many, many years. And what it does for you, if you do the hard work of developing your confidence, it gives you a new lease on life, doesn't it, Trace?
It certainly does. And, it's interesting you use that term, resting bitch face. And it's a terrible term, isn't it? And I don't know it aimed at a male, and I'm not being sexist here, but this is a problem. A woman who's looking
No.
Same thing. So women are tagged. So because we're expected to look, the part, etc. And because we're expected to look the part, if you are too pretty, you are condemned. If you're not pretty enough, you are condemned. And it's all just not good enough, is it?
No. I know that I grew up with the thought that I wasn't good enough, and when in fact every single human being has a right to think that they are worthy, because every single human being is worthy. You're worthy of your being able to speak and say what you want to say. You're worthy of being who you're meant to be within this world, and we judge too much and too often, and it's not okay anymore.
It's right, isn't it? And in Australia, and I know all our listeners overseas that outside Australia wouldn't probably be aware of this, but we have what's called the tall poppy syndrome here.
We do.
Absolute bucket loads, and it's aimed at people who appear to be at the top of their game. And anyone who appears to be successful just gets bashed and bashed and bashed. And we see it all the time.
Yes.
But we also see it in the professional world as well. But in Australia particularly, the tall poppy syndrome has a lot of research around it. And I've got a whole chapter of it in my book. And it is ruthless, absolutely ruthless.
It is ruthless.
And, I experienced it myself. And so I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying about the fact that if you're unique, if you're a little bit different to everyone else, well, woe betide you. You're in trouble, because they'll come for you, so to speak. So building confidence. You said it took you to your 40s to build your confidence. What sort of strategies did you use to help you become self-confident?
Well, Tracy, that's a wonderful question, because I think that my confidence only started to develop as I started to do some of that deep inner work, that healing, and I did a lot of self-development, a lot of reading, a lot of therapy. And as I started to do that and started to understand where I'd come from, what I'd been through, and some of the impacts of those experiences on my life, I started to see that I wasn't alone, and that I did have a voice, and that voice was worthy of being heard. And a lot of the hardest work was around my negative self-talk. So and I still can be very hard on myself, self-critical, feelings of not being good enough, highly perfectionist. So I would look at things that I did, and to me they would be just so flawed, when in fact they were okay. It was only my standards and my mind that was impacting on me. So yes, a lot of exercises around positive affirmations. So I remember in the earlier stages, one of my therapists got me to write on my mirror, so that when I got up of a morning, I would see, you are beautiful, you are uniquely beautiful, and you are special. And I dare say that they stayed on my mirror for a good 12 months until I found something else. Because as listeners may know, whatever you speak and give energy to will become your reality. So I wanted to change the way that I thought about myself, and that was that little step that did it. Yeah. So lots of those sorts of exercises, and then continuously learning and researching and improving myself. And as I improved and as I did that work on myself, I've slowly become more confident. And then once you get to a certain stage of being confident, there also comes that time where you challenge yourself to step out of your comfort zone. And that's where my journey in radio began, because I took an opportunity to do some live shows, and I will be honest, I was physically sick before I got behind the microphone for the first 6 months of my radio shows. And then as you do it and develop that confidence, you become more and more okay with who you are and your place in the world. And so I can see that Lindy has joined us on the Zoom this morning.
Have a listener here, and I've still got you in a waiting room, Lindy. I'm not missing you. I'm seeing you there. I've got you on mute for a moment. Just we're having a chat here about confidence with the author.
Yep.
I'll be with you in a minute, but thanks for coming on. So, Toni, there's some really good strategies there, and the big one, looking in the mirror. I have what's called my 5 micro habits I do every morning, and I do.
I love your micro habits, Tracy. I'm sorry, they really, since you told me about your micro habits, I've put them in my life. And if the listeners get anything out of the show today, listen to Tracy's micro habits. They're fantastic.
Yeah, it's a killer routine, literally kills you.
It is.
And there's a reason why. So I hear what you're saying. And if anyone were to read my book, they'd understand why I have to have, I'm just sitting there. Why I have, sorry, I just had to do a little message there. Why I have to do this killer routine in the morning. And my killer routine really quickly is that the minute I wake up in the morning, I make sure that I'm focused from the moment I wake up, and I start with a stretch. So I literally stretch out on my bed, got the thumb here, and I stick the thumb where the end of where you'd have a bra strap or your rib cage is there, and so you can feel your diaphragm. And I do 10 really deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, and stretch myself. What I found it does is it slows me down, because I work fast, I speak fast, I move fast, and I need to tell my brain, that's not how we're operating here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the 10 breaths. Then I have next to me on the bed, a glass of room temp water. Now, there's a reason for a glass of room temp water. So sit up, have my glass of room temp water, and you can imagine what happens to your body when you stand up in the morning and you've just had a glass of room temperature water and you've been asleep all night. Boom, it goes south, absolutely, flushing everything out. So you toddle off to the bathroom, and then what I do is I leverage every single routine with an activity. So obviously you have to go to the toilet. So after you've done that, do 5 squats. I call these men's squats because that's what I was told to do by my physio. Men's squats. So 5 squats there. Hop over to the sink, wash your hands, look in the mirror, and have an affirmation. It's going to be a great day today. And I tell myself that. I have to tell myself that. It is going to be a great day today. And my Nighthawk is not going to blow up on me, that lithium battery. After I do that, and then I go out and I lift some weights. So I've got some gorgeous little weights there, and lift them. And I do that. Now, what happens is, I leverage those little activities, those routine activities, all through the day. So every time I go to the toilet, I do the squats. And you can imagine, even if you go to the toilet 4 times a day, how many squats you do in that day. So that's why it's my killer routine, because it hurts your legs and you know you're moving your legs. I've got some other things I do. So if anyone's really interested, drop me a line on my bbsradio.com/Tracy Tully talks, and leave me a line there, scroll right down to the bottom of the page, and I'd love to, and leave your email address so I can contact you, and I can share those micro habits. But right now we're going to talk about confidence, but I have a listener, so I'm going to actually bring that listener on, and you're unmuted, Lindy, are you? You are. Hello. Hello.
Yep. Good morning.
And you probably don't realise, but this is my second radio live web TV program, and you're here all the way from where? Where are you?
I'm in Perth, Western Australia. So Perth is reportedly or reputedly the most isolated city in the world. So we're more isolated at the moment because we have a hard border in place. So it's very difficult to come in to Western Australia. We could go out of Western Australia, but it would be very difficult for us to get back in. So basically we are isolated within our state, but we have a wonderful state that we're able to, the slogan is wander out yonder, because we're very fortunate that we don't have any community transmitted COVID. So we are allowed to go anywhere in the state except remote Aboriginal communities for health reasons.
Health reasons, I understand that. So you're over in Western Australia. Our listeners overseas, because this broadcasts everywhere, all over the world, our listeners may not be aware of Western Australia. So Western Australia is a massive, massive state. In literally, it's almost half of Australia, isn't it, Toni? And we've got nicknames for everyone. For each state has a nickname. So over in Western Australia, you're called sand gropers. Is that still around?
That's correct. I'm just trying to get the volume down a bit.
Might be my volume.
Does that help?
Yeah, it's cool. Okay.
Sounds perfect.
You're a sand groper, right?
Perth sits on 6 miles deep of sand. It's a old, there's about 6 sand dune systems that the coastal plain of Perth is built on. So we're sand gropers because we literally are sitting on sand. We have the most beautiful beaches here in Western Australia, and I have been around Australia, and there are some wonderful beaches, but I think I'm a bit biased. We do have beautiful beaches over here, and the whitest sand, if you've ever been or heard about the place Esperance down south, you walk on that sand and it actually squeaks with the high silica level in that sand. So it's pure white. So yeah, we have some wonderful beaches. So sand gropers for that reason.
Sand gropers, you're in the surf and we're in the turf. So over there, I've been to Broome, a fabulous place. If anyone's listening and ever wants to go to Western Australia, Broome is a phenomenal place, a tourist destination to meet. Beautiful beaches there too. A fabulous beach there, and it's called with a rock called Wave Rock. Have you been to Broome, Lindy?
I've been to Broome, but I haven't seen that wave rock. There are many wave rocks around Western Australia. The one that's credited with the name Wave Rock is the one at Hyden. But there are, like I've just been out to the Wheat Belt, and there's pretty much every granite rock, big granite rock has a wave rock formation caused by wind and water erosion.
Oh, that's really brilliant. Now, I also have a fabulous cemetery there, and the history of that cemetery is amazing because of the pearl divers. So this is a long time ago. When we were in our teens, our parents took us to Broome. We had a huge trip all up through Western Australia. Fabulous, loved it, and want to go back. In fact, I was booked to go back to drive right across the guts of Australia from Brisbane to Perth on my own, because it's been one of those bucket list things, and I'm a long haul driver. I love long haul driving. So we're talking about confidence today. So I just wondered if you can quickly maybe work in with us today with our theme. And do you have anything that you'd like to say about self-confidence that you might have experienced in your lifetime?
I think the most important thing is that you have to believe in yourself. That if you believe in what you can do, what you can achieve, then that's a really good way to start. I know that I went back to university as a mature age student to become a teacher. I was a teacher assistant for 8 years, and I wanted to do something more with my life, but at that stage I wasn't very confident. After my first semester at university, I realized that I could do this, that I did have the capability and the capacity to study and communicate in a professional way at a university level of communication, and that the results I got from my first semester gave me the confidence boost I needed. So you also need to have successes, and I became a secondary teacher, and I find often the students that I would teach that were disengaged, it was usually two reasons. Firstly, they were disengaged because they were not being challenged. And the other reason was that they had never really had success and therefore had no self-confidence in their abilities. And so as a teacher, you have this huge spectrum of abilities in your classroom, and you have to be able to, deliver the curriculum, but also be able to teach from students who had low abilities, but probably low abilities because they've been lacking self-confidence. They've just never had, right from pre-primary, they're quashed right from pre-primary, and they just don't feel like they are a success.
And that's institutionalised, aren't they, Lindy? They're institutionalised, and obviously.
If they don't fit the box,
yep.
If they don't fit the box, then there's no chance for them.
And Toni and I were just talking about that, and I'm not sure how long you've been listening for before you popped in, but if you're in any way different, then you could have a challenge there growing up in life. Look, I'm going to keep moving on. Feel free to stay on and listen to us, but if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself. It's been amazing listening to you, Sandgroper, all the way in Western Australia. How long does it take you to drive from Western Australia across the Southern Queensland?
Well, we do it slow. I know that there's people that can do it in 4 days if you've got two drivers, but we usually take about a week because we're pulling a caravan as well, and that's if we go through South Australia to Broken Hill, and then from Broken Hill through Cobar up to southern Queensland, southeast, Queensland.
Well, I look forward to maybe meeting you one day when the borders open, and it would be great. We're going to run a workshop over in Western Australia in Perth. So thanks for popping in, and
we look forward to when you get a chance, and nice to meet you, Toni, as well.
Cheers,
hello, Lindy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for. So there you go, listeners. That if you would like to join me on Tracy Tully Talks, please feel free to jump on, and I'll put that up later, the link to get on. But you will sit there in a waiting room until you're ready to come on. So we'd love to hear your stories. So that's Lindy, all the way from Western Australia, Sandgroper there, and a phenomenal place, Western Australia, in Australia here. But Toni, let's get back to confidence. Lindy brought up some really good things there as well, as in terms of the struggles people have. And it doesn't matter who you are, male, female, children, or older people. The struggles are real. So what I've got at the moment up on my site is a free PDF, and it's called Your Mindset. And I'm just going to quickly show it to you. Your Mindset Roadmap. Ooh, look at that mindset.
Oh, wow.
And it's called 5 Steps to Success, and it helps you move from your place of fear. So the first stage of your mindset journey is when the brakes are on, and when you've got the brakes on, and that you really struggle because you acknowledge that you're in a position where you find yourself too overwhelmed and anxious to make any firm decisions with a disciplined focus. And this is where a lot of people are, with the brakes on. And that's just the first stage that we need to get through. And that's why my 5 micro habits are really good, because they help get up, move, and it actually refocuses your brain to say, positive day, we're going to smash this and make it happen. The second stage I talk about in this beautiful free PDF is that you're at crossroads. So you've driven your car, it's a road map. You've driven your car and you're at crossroads when you're in your mindset journey, when you're very indecisive and you doubt yourself. And we heard you say that, you doubt yourself. And we heard Lindy, our listener, just say the same thing. That she doubted herself because she went back to you at an older age. And this is the stage when we actually open the door, we're hiding behind, but we're just not ready to walk through it. I bet you have plenty of those moments too, Toni.
Many.
Yeah. So the third stage in my 5 stages to success on my roadmap journey is what we call a lost signal. So this is what I call stage 3 on your journey. When you walk through the door, but you found that you've lost the signal and you're not connected to focusing on success. So it's a big jump. It's a really big jump. You got through that door, you've got yourself there, but you just still don't know. You still don't trust yourself. And that's what the word confidence is Latin for trust. Fidere, Latin for trust. So if you don't have self-trust, you won't keep going. So then we have, and in stage 3, we actually pretend to ourselves that we know what we're doing, but we actually self-sabotage.
Yeah.
We self-sabotage any ability that we might have. And we see that in a lot of entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs. They self-sabotage, and I hear it a lot when people come to me, because that's what I do. So stage 4 is a great stage, and I'm a stage 4. I love acceleration, and it's called acceleration.
Yes.
I'm a foot flat to the pedal to the metal driver, which is not good, is it? But in Australia, there's so many roads that we can do this, and I love it. I love speed. I love speed in my Isuzu D-Max, especially when I do long haul driving, night driving. So the accelerate stage in your mindset journey, when you've walked away from the door and the door has slammed shut and you're there. You know you can do it. You found the success. So Lindy just said she got her first results in her first semester. The door had slammed shut. She proved to herself that she could do it and that she can take off that handbrake and drive her vehicle forward with purpose and success. So that's some of the things I've got there, and it's absolutely amazing. So tell me, we talked about your book a little bit. So we've got to your journey. Is there one favorite chapter there that you'd like to talk to us about?
Oh gosh. So I wrote the book, and it was a lot of the book is about trauma and the various traumas that I suffered. So quite a hard thing to write, but I wanted to take listeners, readers, on a journey that showed you can come from a deep, dark place and there's hope and light at the end of that deep, dark place. And the reason for that I decided to write was that as I started to heal, I started to talk to more people about different elements of my life. And as I did that, they said, you really need to write about that. You need to tell people about that so that they see, hear, and know that there's hope. I know that when I was in that deep, dark, horrible place, that I felt that there was no hope. And for me, some of those days were just simply breathing in and breathing out and getting to the next minute, breathing in, breathing out, getting to the next minute. I lived a long time in that space, just surviving. And so I wanted people to know that those small steps and small action that you take culminate in a better way and a journey to the end, and a journey that will get you past, because trauma is transient and it will pass and you will heal, and it's a variable amount of time for people. For me, as we've talked about, Tracy, it was 10 years easy before I felt remotely healed to some extent. And though I feel fantastic and life is fabulous, there will always be elements that trigger certain responses. But it's knowing that that's what's happening that helps the most, and that's around that self-development. So resilience is the story of what happened throughout my life that brings me to this time in my mid-40s, and it was designed to show people that there's hope, healing, and happiness after lots of trauma. And that's what resilience is, keeping going when the going gets tough and bouncing back, and seeing life as a series of challenges that you can overcome and that are not necessarily there to stop you in your tracks, but to create the person that you are. I would not be the person that I am today had I not walked through all of that trauma. I would not have the strength. I would not have the confidence if I hadn't walked through that trauma. So I'm actually looking back retrospectively and am grateful, as horrible, terrible, yucky as it was, I'm grateful, really grateful, because I wouldn't be here now if I hadn't gone and walked through that. And I guess I see that as my life path is to show people that there is a way, that there is hope, and that you can be imperfectly perfect. And if I'm not a great example of that, then who is?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the big thing is that it's debilitating. And we need to acknowledge
Yes.
that a lot of people who haven't experienced it don't understand just how debilitating it is, because
Yes.
it's one of those things, especially people with PTSD, it's one of those things you
Yes.
can't see. It's not
You
visual.
can't see.
No. So it's unbelievable how a trigger can actually affect a person, and people
Yes.
do not understand what triggers are. And so for those people out there, especially those people who are ex-armed forces who experience really debilitating PTSD,
Yes,
I get it. We get it. We understand
we do.
just what you've been through and that constant turmoil. What I love about America, Toni, is I
Yes.
just love America. And I've been following all these people on Instagram for a very, very long time, years,
Yes.
who own British Bulldogs. And they use those British Bulldogs as support animals for
Yes.
their services people when they've left the services. And I love watching these people fly these puppies and these dogs across America to people who need them. So they're
Oh, wow.
like our care flight in Australia, but they're
Oh,
helping the ex-armed services people with these British Bulldogs. It's massive. It's absolutely massive, and it's phenomenal.
wow.
So my heart goes out to those people out there. I follow you, and I think you're amazing. I am an owner of many British Bulldogs, and I love them. They're most loyal, wonderful dogs, and they're just fat and squishy and rolly. But they are so, so loyal. So when I was in my really, really black time, and if you read my book, you'd know when I was at my darkest time, my British Bulldog, who never, ever, ever got on the bed or moved from her spot, would come into the bed and she would know. She would just sense it. She'd actually get on the bed and she'd actually nuzzle up against my back. And it was that
Yes.
warmth. It was that warmth of a body that helped me get through that stage, because I'd be literally frozen in my bed, not able to
Yes.
do anything and thinking these really dark thoughts. And she would not move. If I lay there all day, she would lay there all day, and she would only move when I got up. She was a phenomenal bulldog. So I can understand why these dogs are used so liberally in America. And good on you to all those
Yes.
people in America who do those special care flights. I think you're wonderful. And I'm actually writing a book on a British bulldog, or two British bulldogs,
Yes.
that are these support dogs for this purpose. And I've watched this lady for years, and I'll get her on one of my broadcasting channels. I'll get her on one day and she can talk about it. But boy, they do great things. So there are some things that we can do. And if you have PTSD and you really are struggling, really consider an animal. And
Absolutely.
all you need to do is go to the doctor to make that request to have that animal. And now might be the time to do it. So we're talking about that, and I just let everyone know I don't have a clock. I don't know about you, Toni, but I don't have a clock. I'm not in my home. So for all our listeners, I'm not in my home for a reason, because my Nighthawk computer, my internet dongle, blew up last night, and I had to race over to my mum's place this morning and set everything up. And so I'm literally on the fly. And I think I'm getting this feeling that I'll be on the fly every time I conduct an interview, won't I? I'm here in my beautiful mother's place, and so she's walking around and listening. You heard the phone just ring there before. And last week I was in a medical facility. So I am the sort of person that moves around a lot. So I could be anywhere running an interview. So what's the time there, Toni? Can you tell me?
We still have some time. I'll keep an eye on the time and I'll let you know 5 minutes before the end. I'm sorry, listeners. I have to. Poor Tracy. We talk all the time, and she every time I talk to her, something else has blown up, stopped working. she's lost emails. Like, it's like the tech gods are aiming spears at Tracy Tully, which usually means that she's on a powerful thing with Tracy Tully Talks, because usually if something keeps making it difficult for you, that means that it's going to be worthwhile in the end.
That's right. And challenges are the thing. And this is what we're
Yes.
talking about, confidence. The biggest thing
Yes.
building your resilience is
Yes.
making sure you don't run away from those challenges. And for
Yes.
me, I have had challenge after challenge after challenge in my life, as many, many, many people have. And I was just
Yep.
speaking to one of the owners of this station prior to coming on this morning, and he's telling me he's lost everything in a fire, one of the Californian fires a few years ago. And I went, oh my gosh, I
Yes.
just can't even fathom what that would be like. We've lost everything in a flood here, and spent the night swimming in pitch black in a really massive river, quite frightening. And but that's nothing, I'm sure, compared to that'd be nothing compared to a fire. And so pleased that they got out safely and they all lived. So these challenges are sent to try us, aren't they? And we need to meet them head on. Because
I agree, Trace. I think, and as Lindy said too, I actually think that a fundamental component of increasing your confidence is in the challenge, and is in facing the challenge and doing whatever it is that is hard for you. So for me, that nausea before coming on live radio, that was a real challenge, but I just kept doing it, and now I feel more confident. But lots of those things that are challenges, I think they build your confidence in yourself in a way that nothing else does. What do you think?
Definitely. And that's that big word, resilience, because every time
Yes.
you allow yourself to sit in that challenge and work through it, then you're building the skills in your resilience makeup, and you're building
Yes.
that the next challenge that comes along, you've got things to draw from to help you to understand. So for me, it was major. I watched this lithium battery literally blow up next to my eyes last night while I was on the computer, and I was watching it, and I thought, oh my gosh, out it went out the door. And so no more internet. And where do you buy? You don't. There's nowhere for me to buy a Nighthawk or early this morning, because I had to get up, run across an hour across town, which is not far, but it's probably only 5 kilometers, but it took an hour in the traffic and set up this morning. So I'm here, and I'm here as I am. So
I can't believe it. I can't believe it, because it was only yesterday afternoon I was talking to Tracy, and she'd lost the computer had malfunctioned. Her new computer, just been set up, it had malfunctioned, and she'd lost her logins. And I'm like, oh my God, Tracy, and then now to hear that this dongle's blown up, I'm like, oh my goodness, if that's not a challenge and a half. Because people, I'm not sure if you understand that to do live radio takes a certain amount of preparation, and you have to make sure the equipment's right. You need the internet, your notes that help you guide you through the show, and all sorts of things that make for a live program. And so Tracy's shown up still on her live program when all of these things have gone wrong, and she's still here, she's still presenting, and she's still doing a show, and it's only her second show. So well done, Tracy. Well done.
Thank you. And the brilliant thing about, I suppose, challenges is it's not the end of the world, because we're in COVID, and we know that there's a lot of people on the internet, and that's causing problems. And from what I heard, I was speaking to people all over the world yesterday, and they were experiencing the same problem, and they all had Chrome. So I'm pretty well thinking that you need to go and empty your cache out. And of course, the minute you empty your cache, you lose everything. And I hit that button faster than I sort of realized what was coming after it, which is, well, as I was saying, I move too fast all the time. And then I went, oh no, I've got this meeting to do shortly, and I've got this, and I get all the logins on really, really quickly. And there's a lot of logins. So that's what. that's what happens.
And that was the start of it, wasn't it, Tracy? We were trying to get onto Zoom and I messaged you and said, I cannot get onto Zoom. It just will not let me on. And I'm like, what on earth is going on? And luckily we have each other's phone numbers and we use the old-fashioned phone conversation. But yes, lots of technical stuff going on around the world at the moment.
Yeah, and I think what we're finding is we're going back to the good old days, very much so. And I'm quite liking that.
Yes.
I don't really like faxes, but I'm glad we're not doing the fax thing anymore. I'm glad we've got the internet. But taking a step back and breathing and having a good look around and having a check is what's happening for me in COVID. I don't know about you, but it's certainly been a challenge in many ways, as I believe it would be for many people, in that if you're not used to being home and you're not used to isolation, you'll really struggle. So I've lived most of my life in very isolated rural areas.
Yes.
And so I'm quite at home with isolation. I'm quite happy with it. I love that piece with isolation. But even I got sort of to the end that I'm over this. I need to get out. And so I went out and had a lovely long lazy lunch with some ladies last Friday, and it was great. It was my first outing since I returned from Egypt in March 18. March. So I hadn't done anything. I just been at home working. But that's okay, because all we have to do is look back at history to know the challenges that were experienced by so many people in so many across so many countries, in so many situations, to know that it's okay. We're doing quite well as a world. We're doing quite well. It is tough, and it's going to be tough for a lot longer yet, but we're doing okay, and we need to all be very patient with how things
and resilient.
Resilient, yeah.
That whole idea of resilient, I've been thinking about it in terms of some of the news items that are going around at the moment, and one of them relates to Magda Sabansky, one of Australia's premier beautiful comedians, and she's actually being slammed at the moment because she did an ad that encouraged people to do the right thing, social distancing, hand washing, etc. And she was slammed for that because there's a lot of people out there that are rallying against the whole COVID virus in terms of they don't want to be in lockdown, they don't want to wear masks, they don't want to social distance, they don't want to. And for me, that triggers the thought, where is your resilience? Where is your adaptability? Why is this so hard for you to do a simple task like wearing a mask that protects other people? It's actually not about your rights, okay? As a human, you conversely have the responsibility to look after humanity as a whole. And so that idea of resilience, if people were more resilient, they would go, okay, well, we've got to wear a mask for a while. Okay, so we can't travel for a while. Okay, so we've got to do lockdown. It's not going to be forever. Elements may go through for the rest of our lives, but where's your resilience? Where's your adaptability? And why is this so difficult for you to understand and grasp a hold of? Instead of rallying against it, why not work out a way to make it work for yourself? Be adaptable, be resilient.
It's interesting you talked about masks there. Obviously, it's a contentious issue in some places.
It is.
But I've got a beautiful friend. I'm going to give her a shout out now. And her name is Alicia Kaiser. And last night, Alicia is as an author. So last night, she actually came on the messenger and said, I've just pressed print on her book. It's taken her since February last year to do her book. The reason is because Alicia has cerebral palsy, and she has a massive mask and oxygen tubes coming off her head with big tanks behind her. She's in a wheelchair, and Alicia is someone who does the challenge tough, and she's a beautiful woman, and I'll bring her onto one of my shows. But Alicia was telling me she was in the supermarket the other day, but now the mask she wears covers half her face, and then there's a lot of head on as well. So she's in the supermarket, and some fellow had the nerve to walk up to her and say to her, you haven't got a mask on. And she said to me, what do you say to someone like that? And I said, I'm really interested to see what you said. I know what I'd say. And she said, how on earth am I going to strap a mask to this machine? And I don't need a mask because the whole machine covers my
Is
face.
a mask.
What part of that couldn't he see, how rude he was? And I thought back at it and I thought, Alicia, that is so right. So talk about a challenge that she has to deal with that challenge every single day. And a big shout out to Alicia, and I will bring her
Alicia.
on in one of our interviews, and you'll be able to meet Alicia. She's phenomenal. I can't wait to get on the stage and go down to Melbourne once the borders open and do a workshop with her. She's a pretty phenomenal lady, and what she's been through in her life. So her book actually talks all about it. Now tell me, Toni, where can people find your book? Where can our listeners find your book if they want to buy it?
So the easiest way for them to find it is to jump on to tonilontis.com, TONILONTIS.com, and there's a tab on the top that says book, and bang, there you go. It's in paperback, ebook and audio, and if you search on Amazon, you'll also find it there, and any of the online bookstores have got it. So that's Resilience, Memoir of a Broken Little Girl, Discovering a Woman of Strength and Beauty. Sorry, it went out of screen there. That's my own personal copy that's got like tags through it and pages coming out and all sorts of things. So I'd love you to jump on and grab it.
Oh, good. Did you find that it was cathartic? Did you find that you felt really good when you published that book?
I actually did feel really good. It was a difficult book to write. The writing of the physical book was cathartic, and then I went on and did the audio version, and that was really cathartic. I had lots of healing tears, because there's a difference between writing what you have in your brain and then physically speaking it out in an audio book. And it was definitely, and again, a big shout out to the producer of my audiobook, Simone from Brisbane Audiobook Production, because she was the one who encouraged me to narrate it myself. I was going to get a voice actor to do it, and she just kept saying, no, I think you should do it. And she gave me the confidence to do it. And again, that was another confidence step. Was I was not going to do it myself. Like, I just was so lacking in confidence, and that was another step in gaining my own confidence. She just kept gently saying, no, I think you're the best one to narrate it, because you know your story, you'll add the right inflection and emotion. And she was right. And had she not gently encouraged me to do that, I wouldn't have done it. And I would definitely not be here now on radio talking to you.
That's right. And it's a lovely, lovely journey you've gone through. And I get tired of hearing people say, oh, no, your self-published book, oh, there's too many out there. Well, there isn't too many out there. If you know the population of the world, there isn't too many. You can't have enough books. I just love reading. I read every single night, so I'll go through a lot of books. And I love hearing about other people's challenges, because it reminds me how very fortunate and lucky I am. And that's what life is about. I'm in my mother's house. My mother is almost 90, and she published her first book at the end of last year. And I actually showed it on the screen. So if you go to my YouTube listening, you'll actually see that. So Come Fly With Me in a DC-3. And that is a great book too. And there's a beautiful story there. And she was a air hostess in the 50s. In Australia on the DC-3s. The DC-3s, as we know, were made in, she's just heading out now, were made in America. And they were fabulous planes. I love the DC-3s, really safe, really fabulous planes, and love them. So she's almost 90, and she was able to publish her first book at 90. So she's been through, 1935 she was born.
Yes.
She's been through a lot in her life. Wars, depressions, you name it. She went over to Malaysia with the family, and that's where I was born. Dad was in the Air Force there and based at Butterworth. So we lived in Penang, and she was there, and she spent years there. She's been all over Australia and in all sorts of situations. She's suffered many bouts of different cancers, very, very aggressive cancers, and she's survived. And she is a survivor, so she's great. So if you're listening and you want to hear that book about her journey, Come Fly With Me in a DC-3 by Joy Allardyce, then go jump on Amazon and have a look at that. So, Toni.
So age should never be a barrier, should it, Tracy? So for the people listening out there, if you're not inspired by a 90-year-old writing her first book, then man.
Absolutely correct. And she just blows me away. And I think that's where I've got my resilience from. Both my parents, that, you know, what they went through and what we experienced in our lives taught us that you can absolutely, you can do it. Now, last week I had a couple of quiz questions, and one of the quiz questions I thought I'd give the answers to, because one of the quiz questions was, what's a baby rabbit called? And it's called a kit. So there we go.
Oh.
And the other quiz question was, what is the strongest muscle in the human body? And I said, there's a hint in what we're doing today. So it's called the masseter, and it's the main jaw muscle. And, you know, I know my father used to nickname me Jabberjaws, and that's okay because I talk. And, you know, some of them would be very unkind. I call my sisters, my beautiful sisters, would say, yeah, she can talk under 10 foot of cement. And it's true, which is why I'm on this station and enjoying every minute of it. Thank you, BBS Radio, for your patience. Thank you, Toni, for helping me to find this beautiful space to talk to. Next week, we're going to talk about resilience. And I know that you'll be able to help us with that. And we're going to bring on another author called Yogita Ridgely. And Yogita's got a really interesting story as well.
Yes.
And we'll talk with Yogita. But if you are listening and you'd like to jump on, please feel free to. Love to hear your story. If you're a little bit fearful of jumping on and being seen, that's okay. Send me a message at bbsradio.com/Tracy Tully Talks and pop a message in there for me, and I'll get back to you and invite you on. But there's lots and lots of interesting people coming up. I'm actually interviewing a lady tomorrow who's done some amazing things. And wait till we get her on board. But next week, it's yourself again, Toni.
Yes.
From Radio Toni, and also Yogita Ridgely.
And Yogita is does lots of things around traveling solo, and so I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how poor Yogita has done when we're in a no travel phase of our lives. In Australia, our borders are closed. In particular, Queensland's border is a hard closure, so we can, like Western Australia, we can travel all around the state, but that's about it. That's about all we can do. And I love my travel, as Tracy loves her travel. And my last trip was to Fiji in February and haven't been anywhere since. So usually I've been to Bali, Melbourne at the very least, and somewhere else overseas in between, and nowhere, haven't been anywhere. So I really would like to be able to travel again, but I appreciate that the measures that the states and governments have in place is to keep us all safe, and that's fine. We will be able to travel again, if not immediately, sometime in the distant future we'll be able to. Tracy and I actually had a Canadian-American touring event planned for about this time this year, and of course that's not happened. But we really would like to get over to America and Canada, because both of us have lots of friends and connections, and of course we'd love to stop in and do live shows at BBS as well. So hopefully in 2021 we'll be able to do that at some stage, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I think so. I think it's definitely on the table. So, but I've got another 2 quiz questions for today, very quickly before we finish up. And the quiz questions are for a prize, and the prize is my book. It's called Fearless, Buckle Up, Build Resilience, and a copy of my mum's book, which I've just talked about. So the first question is, here we go. If you're listening, the first question is, what does HE stand for on the periodic table? Now, if you remember the periodic table, they used to have these great big banners at the back of the science rooms, and it started hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, blah, 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 blah. What does HE stand for? That's the first quiz question for a book.
Great question.
And the second quiz question is a fun one. And I don't know, but when I socialise, I love to socialise. And this is going to be a socialising type of question. Typically, what are the 4 ingredients that go into a cosmopolitan cocktail? What are the 4 ingredients that go into a cosmopolitan cocktail? So there we go. We're going to leave that for our listeners, and they can jump on and they can jump on to bbsradio.com/Tracy Tully Talks and leave me a message there today, and you will be the winner of the book, and I'll send the book over to you.
Tracy loves interaction with people. So if you're listening, please jump on and leave Tracy a message. Doesn't matter what it's about, but particularly if you want to win one of her books, make sure you jump on to that her sub website on BBS Radio, bbsradio.com/Tracy Tully Talks. Tracy, no E, Tully, no E, Talks.
Yeah. So I'd like to wish everyone all the very best for the next week. We're on at 10 a.m. every Thursday morning in Australia here, AEST time, 5 p.m. PT time in America. Thanks for listening to another 60 minutes of inspiring talks with Tracy Tully Talks, and brought to you by bbsradio.com. So don't forget to pop onto the website and leave us a message. It's been awesome having a listener on today, and I look forward to other listeners joining us. Don't be scared. Let your voice unlock and feel comfortable, very comfortable with us on board. So we'll see.
So if you've ever wanted to jump on live radio, here's your opportunity, everyone.
Yeah, I'll hold your hand. It's okay. It's no problems. So good. No, I love it. And radio is a great form of communication.
Sorry, Tracy, I was just about to say we are out of time.
I thought we might be.
So that's it for Tracy Tully Talks this week. We'll be back next week with your host, Tracy Tully, and I'll be joining her for this short time following. And I'm Toni Lontis from Radio Toni. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another 60 minutes of inspiring talking points on Tracy Tully Talks, brought to you by bbsradio.com. Tune in every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Australian time, AEST, and 5 p.m. PT time in America. Leave me a message on my website at www.bbsradio.com/Tracy Tully Talks. If you're interested in lifting the profile, presence and profit of your business, sponsorship opportunities are available. Until next Thursday, it's goodbye from me.